The galaxy was burning. For thousands of years, alien empires had fought in endless wars. Starships clashed across the dark skies, and whole planets became battlefields. Many species had risen and fallen, and still the conflict never ended. To most, war was nothing new. It was only the natural way of the galaxy. But then, something unexpected happened. A new voice was about to enter the chaos. A voice that no one believed could ever matter. A voice from a small blue planet on the edge of a forgotten arm of the galaxy. That planet was Earth. For ages, humanity had looked up at the stars and wondered if someone else was out there. They dreamed of visitors, of friends, of enemies, of adventure. What they did not know was that the galaxy was already full of giants, powerful empires, ruthless conquerors, old civilizations that would laugh at the thought of humans calling themselves warriors. And yet, this day would change everything. This was the day humanity took its first step into the Galactic War. It began with whispers, alien spies, and merchants carried rumors across the stars. A new species is here, they said. They call themselves humans. They come from a world of oceans and forests. They are young, untested, and small, but they build ships. They prepare for war. Most laughed. The elder races had seen this story before. Young species always tried to rise, but they always broke. War was for the strong, and humanity, they thought, was not strong. But some did not laugh. Some had studied humans closely. They saw something strange in them, something different, something dangerous. Humans were fast learners. They adapted. They refused to bow. And above all, they fought with a fire that was not common in the galaxy. Still, no one expected them to matter, until the day the fleet appeared. On the edge of a quiet star system, a fleet of alien warships gathered. They were massive, each one a beast of steel and fire. Their weapons had destroyed dozens of worlds. Their commanders were cruel and proud. They were certain this day would be another easy victory, because today they were going to crush the humans. Across the void, small human ships appeared. They were fewer in number and smaller in size. Compared to the alien armada, they looked fragile. Their armor was thinner, their weapons weaker. To any outsider, it looked like madness. The humans had come to fight a war they could never win. The alien commander laughed. "This will be quick," he said. "Another young race to erase." But humanity did not turn back. Inside the human flagship, Captain Elias stood at the center of the command deck. He was not a giant, not a legend, just a man with a uniform and a steady voice. But his eyes burned with determination. His crew watched him, waiting for orders. They were afraid, but they were ready. "This is our first battle," Elias said, his voice calm but firm. "The galaxy does not know us. They do not respect us. Today, we show them who we are. Today, humanity takes its first step." The crew nodded. Fear turned into focus. The ships moved into formation. Engines roared. Weapons powered up. The galaxy was about to see something it had never seen before. The alien fleet opened fire first. Bright beams of energy cut through the void, tearing at the shields of the human ships. Explosions lit up the dark. To the aliens, it looked like the end had already come. But then the humans fired back. Their weapons were smaller, but their aim was perfect. They struck at weak points. They moved fast, darting between the larger ships, refusing to stand still. Where one human ship fell, another pressed forward. They fought not like a young, clumsy race but like predators. The alien commander frowned. This was not expected. They fight too hard, he said. They fight like they have nothing to lose. Minutes passed. The battle grew hotter. Ships on both sides burned. The human fleet was bleeding, but it did not break. For every explosion, for every life lost, the humans pushed harder. Whispers began spreading through the alien ranks. They should have run, soldiers muttered. Why do they not run? Because humans had nowhere else to go. Because this was not just a battle. This was their first step into the galaxy. And they refused to take it crawling. Far away, in the cold halls of alien governments, leaders watched the battle through secret screens. Most laughed again. They will die, they said. They will burn like all the others. But one old leader shook his head. No, he whispered. They are not like the others. They are something new, something dangerous. Look at how they fight. Look at how they learn, even in the fire of battle. If they survive this day, the galaxy will never be the same. The battle raged on. Humans shouted, fought, died, and still held their ground. The enemy was stronger, larger, older, but fought. The first time in the war, they felt fear. The galaxy was watching. The galaxy was listening. And the galaxy was beginning to tremble. Because in that moment, it realized the truth. Humanity was here. Humanity would not back down. And humanity was ready to take its place in the Galactic War. The first battle had ended, but the story was only beginning. The galaxy had seen humanity for the first time, and whispers traveled faster than light. Some laughed, some mocked, some grew silent, but all of them were watching. For the aliens, it was only curiosity. For humanity, it was survival. The day after the battle, humanity understood one truth. They could never go back. On Earth, leaders gathered in secret halls. The news of the first clash had already reached every corner of the planet. Families mourned their lost sons and daughters. Soldiers stood taller, proud of their sacrifice. The people of Earth did not cry, only tears of sorrow. They felt something stronger, a fire, a unity that had never existed before. But unity was not enough. The galaxy was vast, cruel, and ancient. Humanity was still small, and their fleet was fragile. The question was simple. How would they survive the next battle? The answer came quickly, a signal, not human, not friendly. A voice cut through the dark silence of space, and every translator on every ship began to work. The words were cold, sharp, filled with contempt. "This is the Drekai Dominion," the voice said. "You are human, you are weak. This is not your war. Return to your small world, or we will erase you." It was not a warning. It was a sentence. The Drekai were one of the old powers of the galaxy. They had crushed dozens of young races. To them, humanity was nothing new, just another flame to smother. But for the humans who heard the message, something shifted. Return to Earth, hide in fear. No, that was not an option. Humanity's first encounter was here, and the answer would not be silence in orbit above Mars. The human fleet prepared. Their ships were still wounded from the first fight. Repairs were rushed. Ammunition was short. But their spirits were unbroken. Captain Elias, who had led them through the first battle, stood again at the center of the command deck. His face was tired, his eyes heavy, but his voice was clear. "They think we are weak," he said. "They think we will crawl back to our planet. But today, we show them the truth. Humanity does not crawl. Humanity does not bow. Today we answer. The crew cheered. Engines flared. Shields powered up. Humanity was ready. The encounter began in the asteroid belt near Jupiter. The human fleet moved carefully, hiding in the shadows of the rocks. The Drekai fleet was larger, brighter, confident in its strength. They did not hide. They did not fear. They came with arrogance, ready to crush. But the humans had studied them. They had learned from their first fight. They knew the Drekai ships were strong but slow. They knew the enemy trusted brute force, not cleverness. And so humanity played a different game. The first shot came from the shadows. A single human frigate, hidden behind an asteroid, fired a missile into the side of a Drekai cruiser. The explosion ripped through its armor, and the aliens roared in shock. The humans did not stay still. They moved, fast, weaving between asteroids, striking from unexpected angles. Every shot was planned, every move sharp. The Drekai fired wildly, destroying rocks, missing targets. Their strengths meant nothing against human speed. For the first time, the Drekai were confused. For the first time, they realized this weak species was not weak at all. On board the Drekai flagship, their commander snarled. His claws gripped the edge of his seat, and his eyes burned with fury. "They are insects," he growled. "Insects should not fight like this." But insects did not fight like humans. Insects ran, humans advanced. Insects scattered, humans united. Insects survived. Humans won. The battle grew longer. Explosions shook the belt. Metal rained into the void. Human ships burned, but they kept moving. Every pilot, every soldier fought like it was the last day of their life. And maybe, for many of them, it was. But still, they refused to bow. At last, the Drekai flagship itself was struck. A swarm of human missiles tore into its engines, and flames spread across its hull. The commander roared in rage, but he knew the truth. This was not victory. This was humiliation. The Drekai had come to destroy humans. Instead, they had been forced to retreat. When the dust cleared, humanity counted its losses. Many ships were gone. Many lives had been sacrificed. But the Drekai were gone too. And in the silence that followed, humanity understood something deeper. This was not just survival. This was a message. The galaxy had seen humanity's first encounter, and the galaxy would never forget it. Across the stars, whispers grew louder. "They fight with madness," one alien diplomat said. "They fight with fire," another replied. "They fight like no other." And somewhere, in the high towers of alien rulers, the truth was spoken aloud. If they keep fighting like this, humanity will not only survive, they will rise. On Earth, people looked to the skies with pride. Children whispered about starships. Families told stories of courage. Humanity had tasted war, and instead of breaking, they had become stronger. This was only the beginning. This was humanity's first encounter. And from this day forward, the galaxy would no longer see them as insects. They would see them as something far more dangerous. Because humanity was not just joining the war, humanity was learning how to win it. The galaxy now whispered the name of a new people. Humans. The Drekai Dominion had been forced to retreat, and for the first time in centuries, an old empire felt shame. But shame does not rest quietly. Shame grows into anger, and anger becomes war. The Drekai returned with a fleet twice as large. They wanted revenge, not victory. They wanted to crush humanity so completely that no one would ever speak their name again. And so, The first battle truly began. High above Earth, in the orbiting shipyards, humanity worked without rest. New ships were rushed from the docks. Old vessels were refitted with weapons. Every pilot trained day and night. Humanity knew the storm was coming. The leaders of Earth gathered. Some argued for peace. "Let us send an offer," they said. "Let us show the galaxy we are not a threat." But others shook their heads. "Peace will not save us," they answered. "They want us gone. They want us silent. The only answer is to fight." In the end, the decision was made. Humanity would not beg. Humanity would not bow. Humanity would stand. The fleet gathered near Saturn, where its rings glowed like fire in the dark. There, the humans prepared their defense. Captain Elias stood on his command deck once more. He was no longer unknown. His name had spread across Earth, whispered in respect and fear. He carried the weight of every hope, every life, every dream. Of his people today, Elias said to his crew, "We fight not only for Earth, we fight for our place in the stars. The galaxy does not believe in us. Today, we show them who we are." The crew answered with silence, but it was the silence of steel. The Drekai fleet entered the system like a storm of fire. Their ships were vast, glowing with weapons. They did not hide, they did not sneak. They wanted the galaxy to watch this destruction. The first shot was fired by the Drekai. A beam of burning light tore through the void, striking a human frigate. In a flash, it was gone, but humanity did not scatter. They held formation. They answered. Human ships darted forward, small but swift. Missiles launched in swarms. Cannons fired in rhythm. Explosions lit the rings of Saturn like a storm of stars. The Drekai laughed at first. Small ships, they mocked. Small weapons, they cannot win. But the laughter died when one of their battleships erupted in fire. Human missiles had struck its weak points, tearing it apart. The aliens had underestimated their prey again. This was no easy hunt. This was war. The battle grew heavier. Human ships were destroyed one by one, but each death came with a price. A frigate might fall, but not before launching a final strike that crippled an enemy cruiser. A corvette might break apart, but its wreckage was used as cover for another. Ship to fire. The humans fought with a strange madness. They refused to retreat. They refused to surrender. Every soldier, every pilot, every commander fought as if the fate of the entire species rested on their shoulders. Because it did, on the Drekai flagship. Their commander roared in fury. "They are only humans," he shouted. "Why do they not die?" His officers stared at the battle with unease. "They do die, Commander," one whispered, "but they do not stop." And in that moment, even the Drekai felt something they had not felt in centuries. Fear. Hours passed. Saturn's rings burned with debris. Both fleets were broken, bleeding, but neither side yielded. The humans had lost nearly half their ships, yet their line did not falter. Captain Elias stood tall on his bridge, sweat running down his face. Every alarm screamed, every screen showed damage, but still he refused to speak the word retreat. "This is humanity's first battle," he told his officers, "and it will not be our last." The crew answered with fire. At last, the turning point came. A squadron of human destroyers broke through the Drekai flank. They struck the enemy flagship with everything they had. Missiles, cannons, plasma bursts. The flagship staggered, its shields cracking under the assault. The Drekai commander screamed, ordering his fleet to protect him, but it was too late. A final human missile slammed into the ship's core. In a blaze of light, the Drekai flagship exploded. The fire lit the sky, brighter than the stars. For a moment, the battlefield froze. The humans stared at the burning wreck. The aliens stared too. And then the truth sank in. The humans had destroyed the flagship. The Drekai fleet faltered. Without their leader, they scattered. Some fought on, others fled. But the tide had turned. Humanity had survived. Humanity had won. The cost was heavy. More than half the human fleet lay in ruins. Thousands were gone. Families on Earth would weep for years. But the sacrifice was not in vain. Because this was not just a battle. This was a beginning. News of the first battle spread faster than light. Across the galaxy, rulers whispered. Soldiers spoke in awe. Merchants carried the story from system to system. They destroyed the Drekai flagship, voices murmured. They fought until the end. They are not weak. The galaxy had expected humanity to break. Instead, they had stood. Instead, they had won. On Earth, people lit fires in the streets. They sang songs of courage. They told stories of Captain Elias and the fleet that had stood against giants. Humanity was no longer only earthbound. Humanity was no longer silent. This was the first battle, and it was the day the galaxy began to learn fear. The battlefield near Saturn was quiet at last, where once there had been fire and death only. Drifting wreckage remained. Shattered hulls floated through the rings, glowing faintly in the shadows. The first battle was over. Humanity had won, but victory came with a cost. Half the human fleet was gone. Thousands of lives were lost. Earth itself mourned. Mothers cried. Fathers stood silent. Children whispered names of heroes who would never return, and yet, even through the sorrow, there was pride. Humanity had stood against the Drekai Dominion. One of the old empires survived. No other young race had ever done the same. This was the moment when everything began to change. This was the turning point. Across the galaxy, news spread like wildfire. Alien traders whispered in marketplaces. Soldiers spoke in hushed tones. Governments held secret councils. The humans destroyed a Drekai flagship, they said. They fought with madness. They fought with fire. Perhaps they are not weak after all. Some laughed still, saying the humans had only been lucky, but others felt the truth in their bones. Something new had entered the war. Something the galaxy had not seen in ages. On Earth, the leaders gathered once again. The faces around the great table were worn and tired. They had led their people into space, and now they carried the weight of survival. One voice said, "We must rebuild quickly. The Drekai will return with even more ships." Another said, "We cannot stand alone. The galaxy is too big. We must seek allies." But Captain Elias, who had become a symbol of hope, spoke firmly. "Allies may come, or they may not. But we cannot wait for others to save us. We must be strong ourselves. This is only the beginning." The council fell silent. They knew he was right. In secret, Earth's shipyards worked harder than ever. Factories burned with light day and night. Engineers built new weapons, new defenses. Children dreamed not of flying airplanes, but of commanding Humanity was transforming faster than anyone could imagine. And while humans built, the galaxy watched, far away, in the great hall of the Velari Council. The oldest rulers debated. The Velari were a neutral race, ancient and wise, and their words often shaped galactic law. One elder said, "The humans are reckless. They will burn quickly." Another shook his head. No, reckless they may be, but look at what they have done. The Drekai are powerful, yet they bled. Humanity may be small, but they are dangerous. The chamber grew tense. For centuries, the balance of power had remained steady. Old empires fought, but no young race had ever risen far. Now, humanity threatened to break the pattern. Should we stop them now? One counselor asked. The eldest of them all closed his eyes and whispered, "No, stopping them will not be so easy. Already they are too strong. Already the galaxy begins to fear." Meanwhile, the Drekai Dominion seethed with fury. Their pride was shattered, their honor broken. The loss of a flagship was not just defeat, it was humiliation. Their emperor stood before his generals, his voice sharp as steel. "These humans," he growled, "must be erased. No species may shame the Dominion and live." But one general spoke with caution. "They learn to fast. They fight with fury. To crush them may not be as simple as we think." The emperor's eyes burned. "Then we will send more. 10 fleets, 20, whatever it takes. We will drown them in fire until nothing remains." The generals bowed, but deep inside, unease spread. The humans had forced even the mighty Dominion to tremble. For the humans themselves, life changed in ways no one had imagined. On Earth, once divided nations now worked as one. Flags were lowered, and a single banner was raised, the banner of all humanity. Recruitment centers overflowed. Young men and women lined up, eager to join the fleet. Farmers gave their harvests, miners gave their metals, scientists gave their knowledge. Every part of society now bent toward one purpose: survival in the Galactic War. And though there was fear, there was also excitement. Humanity, once trapped on a single planet, was now part of something greater. For the first time, they were writing their story among the stars. The turning point was not just victory in battle. It was belief. Belief that humanity could stand. Belief that they could rise. Belief that they could change the galaxy itself. One night, Captain Elias stood alone on the bridge of his ship. The stars stretched endlessly before him, silent and cold. He thought of the lives lost, of the families waiting, of the weight on his shoulders, and then he thought of what lay ahead. "This is only the start," he whispered. "The galaxy has noticed us. Now we must decide what we will become." The answer would not come easily. More battles lay ahead. More sacrifices would be demanded. But one truth was already clear: humanity would never again be ignored. And so the galaxy shifted. Old powers whispered. New fears rose. The balance began to break, because in the cold silence of space, one truth echoed again and again. Humanity was no longer a small voice in the dark. Humanity was no longer weak. This was the turning point, and nothing would ever be the same. Victory had made humanity proud, but pride was never free. The first battle near Saturn had given Earth hope, but it had also awakened the galaxy's anger. The Drekai Dominion, humiliated and scarred, would not forgive. Their fleets were larger, their weapons older and deadlier, their armies countless, and now they wanted revenge. The first strike came without warning. A fleet of Drekai raiders slipped past the human defenses and entered the skies above Earth's colonies on Mars. The attack was sudden, brutal, merciless. Cities burned under alien fire. Families ran through the streets as buildings fell around them. Soldiers fought bravely, but the enemy was too many. When the sun rose over Mars the next day, whole towns were nothing but ash. Humanity had won battles before, but now they understood the cost of war. On Earth, grief swept across the planet. News broadcasts showed broken homes, crying children, and desperate survivors. The cheers of victory turned into whispers of sorrow. In one city, a mother clutched the photo of her son, who had died in the defense of Mars. In another, a father buried his daughter beneath the red dust. The galaxy had finally answered humanity's defiance, and the answer was blood. In the command halls of Earth's fleet, Captain Elias stood before his officers. His face was pale, his eyes hollow, but his voice did not shake. "We knew this day would come," he said. "We knew victory would not be free. The enemy has shown us their cruelty. Now we must decide, will we bow, or will we endure?" The officers answered without hesitation, "We endure." Elias nodded slowly. "Then we fight on, not because it is easy, but because we must." The fleet worked harder than ever, but now there was a shadow over every mission, every battle, every silence in the dark of space. Soldiers no longer fought for glory, they fought for survival, for families, for the memory of those already lost. Every pilot carried ghosts, every commander carried guilt, every human carried fear, but fear did not break them. Fear made them stronger. The next battle came above Europa, the frozen moon of Jupiter. The Drekai fleet expected to sweep the humans aside easily, but humanity fought harder than before. Ships clashed in the icy void. Missiles flashed like falling stars. The humans held the line, but every victory carried loss. A destroyer sacrificed itself to shield a transport full of civilians. A squadron of fighters gave their lives to cripple a Drekai cruiser. Humanity won the battle, but the price was heavy when the smoke cleared. Hundreds of names were added to the long list of the dead. On Earth, the funerals never stopped. Flags were folded and handed to families. Empty chairs sat in quiet homes. Streets that once rang with laughter now echoed with silence. This was the price of war, and humanity paid it every day. But war was not only loss. In the ashes, something powerful grew. Nations that once fought each other now stood side by side. Scientists shared secrets that had once been guarded. Soldiers from every corner of Earth trained under one banner. The cost was heavy, but it built something stronger. Unity. Humanity had never been so wounded, but humanity had never been so united. Across the galaxy, the whispers grew louder. "Look at them," said one alien trader. "They lose and lose, yet still they rise." "They are reckless," replied another, "but they do not stop." "They are dangerous," a soldier muttered. "They fight as if death is nothing." The galaxy had seen countless wars, but this was different. Humanity did not break. Humanity did not yield. Humanity only grew sharper, stronger, fiercer with every wound. In the halls of the Drekai Dominion, the Emperor seethed. "They should have been destroyed already," he roared. "Why do they endure?" A general bowed his head. "Because, my Emperor, they fight as if they have already lost everything." "How do you break those who refuse to be broken?" The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "Then we shall bleed them more. Let them drown in sorrow until they cannot rise again." But deep in his heart, even the Emperor began to feel unease. For Captain Elias, the weight grew heavier every day. He stood on the bridge of his ship, staring at the stars. Every battle he survived, more names were added to the list of the dead. Every victory felt like a wound. One night, he whispered to himself, "How much more can we pay? How many more must we lose before this war ends?" There was no answer, only silence, only the stars. And yet, even in the silence, humanity endured. Mothers who had lost children still sent food to the fleets. Fathers who had lost daughters still gave their strength to the factories. Soldiers who had buried friends still returned to the battlefield, because humanity knew one truth: if they stopped fighting, they would lose everything. The galaxy had thought humanity's rise was a spark that would burn out quickly. Instead, it became a fire fueled not only by victory, but by loss, by grief, by sacrifice. This was the price of war, and humanity paid it with blood, with tears, with unbroken will. And as the galaxy watched, the fear grew. If humanity could survive this much pain, if humanity could endure such loss and still rise, what would they become when the war was truly theirs? The galaxy trembled at the thought. The price of war had been high, too high. Mars still burned. Europa's ice was stained with wreckage. Families wept every night for the names that would never return. Humanity carried the weight of sorrow, but sorrow did not break them. Instead, sorrow forged them. For the first time in history, Earth became one. The old flags of nations were lowered. Borders that once divided people were erased. On every continent, from the deserts to the cities, from the mountains to the oceans, people now stood beneath a single banner, the banner of humanity, in the great hall of the newly formed United Council. Leaders who had once been enemies now sat side by side. They spoke not of land or money or power. They spoke of survival. They spoke of the stars. One leader rose and said, "We were divided for centuries. We fought each other when we should have stood together. That time is gone. From this day forward, we are not many nations. We are one people." The council cheered, and the galaxy trembled. Factories roared with new energy. Shipyards glowed brighter than cities. Every scientist, every builder, every hand turned toward a single goal: the survival of humanity. New warships rose from orbiting docks, sleeker, stronger, faster than before. Missiles were sharper, cannons more powerful, shields more resilient. Humanity was no longer patching together defenses. They were building the tools of a galactic power. Young men and women filled recruitment centers. They no longer joined because they had to. They joined because they wanted to, because they had seen the fires of Mars, because they had heard the cries of Europa, because they refused to let the galaxy write humanity's story in ashes. Captain Elias watched this transformation with quiet awe. He had seen Earth divided. He had seen humanity uncertain. But now, as he stood on the bridge of his rebuilt flagship, he saw something new. He saw a species becoming more than it had ever been. "This is who we are," Elias whispered to himself. "This is who we were meant to be." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the whispers grew louder. "They rise faster than any species before them," one alien merchant said. "They are dangerous," a soldier muttered. "They unite through pain. They turn loss into fire. Who can stop them?" Some feared, some laughed, some plotted, but all watched in the great halls of the Valari Council. The debate returned. "They must be stopped," one elder said. "If they grow too strong, the balance of the galaxy will break." Another replied, "Stopped. Tell me, who will stop them?" The Drekai. They tried and failed. No, humanity will not be stopped so easily. The chamber grew tense. The were wise, but even they felt uncertainty. Humanity was no longer a whisper. Humanity was a storm rising on the horizon. Back on Earth, unity spread deeper than politics and warships. Artists painted murals of starships soaring through the skies. Children in schools drew pictures of Earth beneath a shield of light. Families told stories of courage around dinner tables. Humanity was no longer dreaming of the stars they were living among them. But unity was not only hope, it was sacrifice. Every man, every woman gave something. Some gave their labor. Some gave their inventions. Some gave their lives. Humanity had become a machine of survival, and every gear turned together. The Drekai Dominion did not rest. Their emperor gathered more fleets, vowing revenge. But even as they prepared, their generals spoke in hushed voices. They grow too quickly, one warned. They are still weak, another argued. The emperor slammed his clawed fist against the table. Weak or strong, they will burn. No species defies the Dominion. But deep inside, even the emperor's heart was uncertain. The day came when humanity revealed its new strength. In orbit above Earth, the first of the battleships rolled from the docks. It was a giant, bristling with weapons, its armor thicker than anything humans had built before. It was not just a ship, it was a symbol, a declaration. Billions on Earth watched the launch. Cheers filled the cities. Tears fell from proud eyes. The message was clear. Humanity was no longer fighting as scattered survivors. Humanity was fighting as one. Captain Elias stood aboard the Unity, staring at the stars. Around him, dozens of new ships moved into formation. The fleet had grown, rebuilt, transformed. Once we were divided, Elias said to his crew. Once we were small, but now we are one. We are humanity, and we will not be broken. The crew cheered. Across the fleet, soldiers raised their fists. The fire of unity burned in every heart, and the galaxy listened. The galaxy saw a young species that had paid the price of war and refused to fall. The galaxy saw a people who turned grief into unity, fear into strength, loss into purpose. The galaxy began to understand a terrifying truth. Humanity was no longer just surviving. Humanity was preparing to lead. And so, the turning point became something greater. Humanity was not only united in sorrow, humanity was united in destiny. The old powers trembled. The galaxy held its breath. Because the war was far from over, and the humans were only just beginning. The galaxy was no longer the same. Whispers had turned into fear. Fear had turned into respect. And now, respect was about to turn into history. For this was the day humanity faced its greatest trial, the day of destiny. The Drekai Dominion had gathered their full strength. No more raids, no more small attacks. This time, they came with everything. 10 fleets of warships, each larger than the entire human navy. Their emperor had declared it before the galaxy. The humans will burn. Their world will fall, and their name will vanish forever. The message was clear. This was not war. This was extermination. On Earth, the news spread quickly. Panic could have taken hold. Fear could have shattered them. But instead, something else filled the hearts of billions. Defiance. Factories roared louder. Shipyards pushed out their final ships. Civilians prepared shelters, but no one spoke of surrender. The people of Earth knew this battle would decide their future. Either humanity would rise, or humanity would be no more. In orbit, the great fleet gathered. Dozens of Unity-class battleships, hundreds of destroyers, thousands of smaller vessels. Still outnumbered, still weaker but united. At the heart of the fleet stood the flagship Unity, and at its command stood Captain Elias. His face was calm, but his voice carried steel. "Today is the day the galaxy will remember," he told his crew. "Not because we die, not because we surrender, but because we show them the truth of who we are." He raised his hand, pointing toward the stars where the Drekai fleet approached. "Today we fight for every life lost, for every tear shed, for every voice silenced. Today humanity takes its place among the stars." The crew roared in answer. Across the fleet, soldiers pounded their fists against their chests. The fire of destiny burned in every heart. The battle began on the edge of Earth's system, near Pluto's frozen orbit. The Drekai fleet swept in like a tidal wave, their ships blotting out the stars. Their cannons lit the void with fire. Human ships fell in the opening volleys, torn apart by sheer numbers. But the humans did not scatter. They did not run. They moved as one. The Unity led the charge. Missiles streaked across the darkness. Cannons thundered. Fighters swarmed like angry hornets, darting between the giant alien ships. Human warships struck in tight formations, hitting weak points and vanishing before the enemy could react. For every human ship destroyed, 2 Drekai vessels burned. The battle raged like a storm, fire and metal clashing in endless fury. Saturn's rings once more lit up with debris. The void became a graveyard and a proving ground. Hours passed, both fleets bled. The humans fought with a madness that shocked even their own enemies. They took risks no one else would take. They sacrificed themselves without hesitation if it meant saving their comrades. The Drekai commander roared in frustration. "They are only humans. How do they fight like this?" His officers stared in silence. None dared answer. Then came the moment of destiny. The Drekai flagship, a monstrous vessel larger than a city, pressed forward. Its weapons blazed, cutting through human lines. If it broke through, Earth itself would burn. Captain Elias stood on his bridge, staring at the monster. His crew waited for his command. They were tired, wounded, half their fleet gone. But his voice did not waver. "Target the flagship," he ordered. "All ships, with me." The Unity surged forward, leading the charge. Human destroyers flanked. Fighters swarmed ahead. They poured every missile, every cannon, every last ounce of firepower into the alien beast. The Drekai flagship answered with fury. Beams of energy lanced out, ripping human ships apart. One by one, they fell, but still they pressed on. At last, the Unity drew close enough. Its cannons roared, tearing holes in the Drakai's armor. Its missiles struck deep, shaking the giant. But the flagship endured. It was too strong. "Captain," an officer cried, "our weapons aren't enough." Ilias stared at the burning monster ahead. He thought of Mars, of Europa, of every funeral, every sacrifice. And he made his choice. "Then we give more," he said. He ordered the Unity forward directly into the heart of the Drekai flagship. The crew gasped, but none turned away. They knew what this meant. They knew the cost, and they were ready. The Unity's engines blazed. It rammed the enemy flagship with all its strength. The impact shook the stars. Explosions ripped through both vessels as the Unity's reactor overloaded in a final blaze of light. The Drekai flagship erupted, torn apart from within. The galaxy itself seemed to tremble. For a long moment, silence reigned. Both fleets hung, frozen in the void, staring at the wreckage. The humans had lost their flagship. Captain Elias was gone, but so was the Drakai's greatest weapon. And in that silence, a truth settled over the battlefield. The humans had done the impossible. The remaining Drekai ships broke. Some fled, others surrendered. The war was not over, but the battle was humanity's. When the news reached Earth, billions wept. They wept for Elias, for the lost, for the sacrifice. But through the tears, pride shone brighter than ever before. Because humanity had stood, humanity had fought, humanity had won, and across the galaxy, the whispers changed forever. They are not weak, aliens said. They are not prey, soldiers murmured. They are a force. They are warriors. They are human. From that day forward, no one doubted. Humanity, had taken its place in the Galactic War. Not as victims, not as shadows, but as a power that could not be ignored. The day of destiny had come, and the galaxy would never be the same again.